The biggest poison in us is regret.
Bad decisions, hasty decisions, too fast, and affects the next 20 years of your life because you made the wrong decision. What makes us make these fast decisions? Fear?
Let the fear of regret fuel you to take action today, now.
Be the best. Lifelong personal development requires tremendous dedication, discipline, and willpower. It is often the case that we know what we need to do, but we lack the courage to take the risks. Instead, we make excuses for inaction.
When people can walk away from you, let them walk. When people can walk away from you, let them walk.
The great thing about excuses is that no matter what happens, excuses are always there waiting to be used. But the downside of excuses is that nobody really believes them. If you make excuses, they're going to know it and they're going to think less of you. But if you refuse to rely on excuses, people are going to know that too, and they'll admire you for it.
You need large amounts of self-discipline to deal courageously with all the fear-inducing events of your life. Courage is rightly considered the foremost of the virtues, for upon it all others depend. Often, fear is necessary to preserve life, prevent injury, and guard against financial mistakes.
I don't want you to try to talk another person into staying with you, loving you, calling you, caring about you, coming to see you, staying attached to you. I mean, hang up the phone. When people can walk away from you, let them walk.
If you ask people what they regret, especially as they get older, what they generally report is things not done. So they don't regret so much mistakes they've made, although of course people obviously regret mistakes they've made as well. So they don't exactly regret sins of commission, right? Errors that they've actively made. They torment themselves for opportunities that had presented themselves that they did not, let's say, exploit or engage in.
The regret we feel for things that we've done, though intent, only lasts a short period of time. But the regret that we feel for things that we missed out on, that can extend throughout a lifetime. Because most of us are scared, and we choose to lead an easy life. And by doing so, we start to rack up those regrets. But there is a solution. You have to be willing to be bold.
You have a great life in front of you, but your great life is in front of you. It's not behind you. What you did back there ain't got nothing to do with what God got for you. What you did back there was learn the lessons to get you to where you are at this particular moment right here.
Bad decisions, hasty decisions, too fast, and affects the next 20 years of your life because you made the wrong decision. If you'd have just waited, got all your information together, settled yourself, you'd have been better. What makes us make these fast decisions? Fear?
It takes discipline to face your fears so you can conquer them. And that's what discipline is. Discipline means taking the hard road, the uphill road, to do what's right. And regret, in and of itself, it's worthless. So learn and move on.
There are moments that try the human soul so violently and so perplexing that if the truth were told, all of us have had moments that we wanted to throw up our hands and walk away. Particularly painful is discouragement in the life of the believer, because as we travel from season to season, it is not just the perils that we face, but it is seeing the wicked go forward while the righteous are held back. Discouragement can creep in secretly, hide behind clothes, makeup, hairdos. Discouragement is so bold that it will even hide behind a smile. It will always ride to work with you, and if it doesn't catch a ride going to work, it'll catch a ride on the way back home. Discouragement will go into a tent. It will walk right into a Section 8 neighborhood. But don't think that it stops Discouragement will walk right into a middle-class house. It won't just stop there. It'll go in a mansion. And tell you life is not worth living. If you listen at discouragement, it will cause you to make bad decisions. It will cause you to think that life is not worth living. And secretly, behind the facade of a smile and a good morning and a praise the Lord and a how are you, you will wonder if you're ever going to get out of what you're into.
One of the things that we know about life is that it is always changing. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. Sometimes you're happy, and sometimes you're sad. Now that's that thing called life. And when we begin to understand and know that, accepting that reality, that we will never ever have things just on an even keel all the time, that you're going to have some ups and you're going to have some downs. But during those down moments, that's where the growth takes place. That's where the work is. Anybody can feel good when they have their health, their bills are paid, they have happy relationships, the children are acting normal, business is successful. Anybody could be positive then. Anybody can have faith under those kinds of circumstances. See, but the real challenge of growth, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, comes when you get knocked down. Adversity introduces a man to himself or a woman. How you handle it, that's where the growth takes place.
The ability to learn to say no and not to feel guilty about it, to me, is about the greatest success I have achieved. It's all a part of a process for growing for me. To me, to have the kind of internal strength and internal courage it takes to say, no, I will not let you treat me this way, is what success is all about. I will not be treated this way. I demand only the best for myself.
As you might imagine, I don't think we should spend a lot of time regretting the choices we've made in the past. To spend time brooding over how things went, that's an illusion. What you're doing is suffering pointlessly in the present under the shadow of certain memories. You're telling yourself a story about something that might have been over and over again. How long do you want to do that for?
And sometimes life is going to knock you down. But because you have been knocked down don't mean that you are finished. No. You got some reasons. It might be your own sense of pride and determination in the kind of life that you want to create.
There are people in their 30s and 40s who are still acting like adolescents. And there are even people in their 40s and 50s who are still acting like babies as far as their attitude toward responsibility is concerned. But the large number of people who shirk responsibility can also provide opportunities for you if you are determined to be different. If you decide to be one of the few who embraces responsibility, you can lead, and you will deserve to lead. Churchill said responsibility is the price of greatness. And in my opinion, it's really a rather small price to pay. It means, first of all, that you accept the consequences of your actions. Responsibility means you look to yourself as the source of everything that happens to you. It means that you assume command, regardless of the hardships you may have undergone early in life, or the dozens of people who may have failed to understand you. I'm saying that regardless of the presence of those negative influences in your life, the best thing you can do, the strongest thing, the most empowering thing, and ultimately the wisest thing, is to accept responsibility for your own destiny, plain and simple. If you have enough reasons, you can do the most incredible things. Here's what you might be lacking: a long enough list of reasons. Reasons that drive you, reasons that get you up a little extra early, reasons that keep you up a little extra late. That's what makes the difference.
You should always make decisions with your heart and soul. You can use your brain for math, but when it comes to the actual feel of the decision, you always want to go inward and check it against your heart and soul. Here's the simple test. Does the decision that you're about to make expand you, expand your future, or expand the possibilities of your life? If the answer is yes, then the decision is yes, no matter how terrifying it is.
Other than death, all failure is psychological. Other than death, all failure is psychological. Does not mean that you won't lose some battles, because you will. We all will. But it does mean that as long as you don't surrender, as long as you don't quit, then you haven't failed.
Here are some action exercises that you can do. Make a decision today to invest in yourself and getting better, as if your future depends on it, because it does. Identify the most important skills you have that determine the quality and quantity of results you get at your work, and make a plan to get better in each one. Set excellent performance in your work as a goal, and then determine exactly what you will need to do every day to join the top 20% or better in your field.
Sometimes I see people succeeding who didn't pray nearly as hard, work nearly as long, and it seems like they seemingly have moments of victory in close proximity so I could see it. Not while I am having a similar experience, but while all hell has broken loose in my life and I am going through agony and tragedy, seemingly they are having victory and triumph. And if you are not careful, the very sight of their prosperity becomes your agony. And seeing them go forward will be a source of such continued frustration that it is not your test that baffles you, but their success agonizingly displayed before you makes you despair of life, until David says in 37:1, fret not thyself over evildoers, how they prosper in their own way, they shall soon be cut off. He says, in other words, don't make a permanent decision over a temporary circumstance. He says, don't allow a moment of agony to make you draw a conclusion about life prematurely.
I was going through a major challenge in my life that was wearing me out, that was using me. And one of my students told me in a class that I was teaching, Lessons in Truth, she said, Les, until you handle it with grace, it will stay in your face. And it stayed there a long time. Are you going through it, or are you growing through it? Are you bigger and better because of it? Because it's not going to leave you until you grow through it. Are you learning anything, or are you doing it over and over and over again? Insanity is doing the same thing in the same way, expecting a different outcome. The biggest challenge is to know what's happening. This is a part of this thing we call life. This too shall pass. And maintaining perspective, putting it in perspective. How do we get stuck? A friend of mine working on a job, loved the company very much, expected to retire there. And one day they called him in the office, asked him for his badge and identification, told him he was fired and he had to leave then. He was devastated. And if you came anywhere near him, he would tell you his story, as we all have stories. Even when he got a job, he went on the job telling anybody who would listen how they fired him unjustly. And he always ended with, it wasn't fair. Life isn't fair. It's not fair that birds eat worms, and they do.
Don't deviate, don't procrastinate, don't become frustrated. All you have to do to win this battle is stay on track.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
I fought a good fight. I fought for my kids, and I fought for what was right, and I fought for my good health, and I fought for a good career that would bless my family. I fought a good fight. The encroachment Opposites are in conflict, and we're in the middle. And if you want something valuable, you got to fight for it.
You have comeback power when something happens to you. Don't buy into what has happened to you. Buy into, I'm getting up out of here. I'm going to change this situation. This does not work for me, and I don't have the luxury of being depressed. I need to clear my head.
Yes, we can see avoidance of responsibility all the time in both our personal and professional lives. We can see that most people aren't as successful as they wish they were. Do you see there's a connection between these two very common phenomena? I hope you'll understand that it's in your best interests to take responsibility for everything you do. But that's only the beginning. I'm also going to suggest that many times it's even best to accept responsibility for the mistakes of others, especially when you're in a managerial or leadership role.
What do you do when you tried and failed and you want to quit and you want to give up? Sometimes you can be blessed and be unhappy because even though things are going right, they're not going according to what you had believed and expected, and you know that something is missing out of your life.
You got to clear your head so that the decision that you make represents the best in you. Be still and know that you're going to get through this. You're going to get through this. You got to assure yourself. You have to encourage yourself. You have to clear your mind.
The great thing about excuses, and the really dangerous thing about them, is that no matter what happens, excuses are always there waiting to be used. But the downside of excuses, even good ones, is that nobody really believes them. If you make excuses, they're going to know it, and they're going to think less of you. But if you refuse to rely on excuses, people are going to know that too, and they'll admire you for it. This is especially true in business. One of the classic examples happened about 15 years ago. A widely advertised healthcare product from a leading manufacturer was shown to be unsafe, and the company responded by pulling every single box off the shelves at a cost of millions of dollars. Was the company destroyed? Hardly. If they had done anything else, there would have been a tremendous loss of confidence. Instead, there was honest acceptance of responsibility for a mistake. Contrast this with what happened recently to a leading manufacturer of computer chips. When a new microprocessor didn't perform up to expectations, the company made excuses. It was a minor problem, something that would crop up once in a lifetime, and so forth. Were these excuses valid? Maybe, maybe not. But it doesn't really matter, does it? So many people use excuses, but nobody really buys them. That accepting responsibility is one of the highest forms of human maturity. To put yourself on the line, a willingness to be accountable, is really the defining characteristic of adulthood. Anyone who has raised children knows how true this is. Just look at a baby during the first few years of life. Every facial expression, every tentative word has one message for the baby's parents. I am totally dependent on you. I can't be held responsible for the consequences. I can't do anything for myself even if I try. After all, I'm just a baby. 10 or 12 years later, of course, as the boy or girl enters adolescence, this message to the parents will be very different. It will sound something like this: I want to be totally independent. Why don't you just leave me alone? I don't want to do anything but think about myself. I certainly don't want to accept any responsibility. It's only when we're at last grown up that the first two messages, I'm totally independent of you and I'm totally dependent on you, finally turn into you can depend on me, which is the truly adult outlook.
The night seasons are not the end. The bad breaks, the disappointments, that's simply another step on the way to your destiny.
But let me tell you what ought to cause great joy to come to your life is if you'd stop comparing yourself to other people and you would just remember where you came from and remember where you started. You're doing more. You're seeing more. You're achieving more. But if you start comparing yourself with someone else, you can get discouraged because they're doing more maybe than you're doing.
Sooner or later, all of us face situations in which we must decide whether to accept responsibility for a problem or look for ways to avoid responsibility. Let's look at the various options and decisions that are now open to you. First, there's the role played by intention. In other words, was the outcome of your action what you intended it to be? And if it was not, should you still accept responsibility for that outcome? This is a very serious issue in the way we think about responsibility. In many areas of criminal law, for instance, the intention to commit a crime must be present in order for the accused to be held criminally responsible. This intention is something quite different from mere negligence. But we don't have to enter a courtroom to see the important role intention plays in accepting responsibility ourselves or assigning it to others. Don't you remember when you were a kid and you left the screen door open so that the cat ran outside and was lost all afternoon? What did you say to avoid responsibility? You said, it was an accident. You said, I didn't mean to do that. As I pointed out earlier, there are lots of people who still use these childlike rationalizations well into their middle age. But if and when you decide you want to be an adult, you begin to see the whole question of intention as nothing more than another opportunity for excuse-making, and you should refuse to participate in it.
If you get beat, unless you're dead, you are not defeated, and you have not failed. What you've done is you've learned. You've gained experience, and you're still alive. So get up and go get after it.
It's easy to go through life holding on to things that are weighing us down. Guilt, worry, doubt, resentment. The problem is, when you allow these things in, they're taking enough space for the good things that should be there. Imagine your life is like a container. You were created to be filled with happiness, love, joy. But if you allow resentment in, it pushes out the joy. There's not space for both. You can only choose one. You cannot go above 100%. You have a limited amount of room if you allow guilt and worry to take up space. The reason some people don't enjoy their lives is because of their container. Their heart is contaminated with so many things. They have 10% anxiety, 15% bitterness, and mad at their friends and neighbors, 25% guilt and sabotaging themselves for their past mistake, 10% jealousy. They don't realize 60% of their container is negativity. They wonder why they don't have joy, peace, pride, because they have only room for 40% of what they should have. Give no place to anger. Give no place to fear. Give no place to resentment. It can't come in and automatically take over. Watch your thoughts. You have control over what you think about and what you choose to allow in. We all have negative emotions, negative feelings. You have to make the choice. And I'm not going to give this anger, bitterness, worry to poison my life. Every morning when you wake up, we need to empty out anything negative from the yesterday. Maybe somebody offended you at work or school and they didn't treat you right. It's easy to let that offense stay, but you have to be disciplined and keep telling yourself, no, I am not giving this offense any room. This day is a gift from God. and I am not going to let it sour my day. They hurt you once. Don't let them continue to hurt you by holding on to the offense. Being offended is not harming them, it's just harming you. Every morning, start your day with gratitude and empty out the guilt. Empty out the discouragement. And when the impurities come, when the infection comes, don't let it stay, let it pass. Keep your heart pure. If you do this, you're going to step up to a new level and life with more joy, more peace, and happiness. Sometimes we wonder why we can't get ahead and why we don't have any strength. It's because our thoughts are limiting us. You can't think defeat and have victory. Your life is going to follow your thoughts. You need to think power thoughts. Everything starts in our mind. I'm worried about my finances. I am stressed over my children. That's just drawing in more negativity. You will be amazed at what will start to happen if you start thinking positive thoughts. You will feel strength, courage, determination start to rise up. Proverb 4 says, "Be careful what you think, because your thoughts run your life." Are you thinking power thoughts? Or are you thinking defeated thoughts? In every moment, you're actually choosing which direction your life is going to go. Don't just think any thought that comes to mind. If it's negative, don't give it the time of day. If you dwell on those negative thoughts, you'll miss your destiny. When you're in tough times, the enemy will work overtime, trying to convince you that the problem is too big. He knows if he can keep you defeated in your thoughts, then he can keep you defeated in your life. When thoughts tell you it's not going to change, instead of thinking those weak thoughts, turn it around and say, "Yes, I have a lot of problems, but I've been armed with strength for every battle. Whatever God started in my life, He is going to finish it." But if you believing these lies that is too much, then you're going to feel overwhelmed and you'll get stuck where you are. Look at how big your God is. That obstacle is no match for Him when you believe all things are possible. Get your thoughts going in the right direction. You're not fighting this battle on your own. You are not alone. You have the most powerful force in the universe on your side and fighting for you. It is a fact that majority of people are negative, but you can't just fit in and keep thinking like everyone else. God is looking for people that are not discouraged by how big the opposition is. Negative thinking is contagious. All around us, there's negative news. Analysts telling us what could happen, how it may get much worse. It's good to be informed, but you can't let that poison destroy your life. Isaiah 8 says, "Do not think like everyone else." You don't have to fear the virus, fear the future. Just keep honoring God, and He will keep you safe. He will do what medicine can't do. When the majority are afraid and negative, you have to be on the offensive and say, "No, I'm not falling into that trap. I'm going to trust God. Everything is going to be better at the end. I'm going to think power thoughts." I was out riding my bike the other day. Most of the route is flat, but there's one very big hill. I like to exercise and enjoy the challenge, but this particular day, I was tired, and about 10 minutes into my ride, I started thinking, I don't want to go up that hill. I don't want to have to push. Wondering if I could make it up, and at one point, I received a phone call. I started talking as I was riding. About 20 minutes later, I hung up. I thought, okay, I don't want to go up that hill. When I looked around, I realized I had already gone up the hill. But because I was distracted with the phone call and not convincing myself that I couldn't do it, I made it up the hill with no problem. I wonder, how many times we're telling ourselves what we can't do, thinking these weak, defeating thoughts, when the truth is, you have already been equipped to handle it. When God created you, He put in you everything you need to fulfill your destiny. Every morning when you wake up, tell yourself, this is going to be a good day. I am confident and strong. I have the favor of God. I'm so excited about what God is going to bring for me in this day.
You can get discouraged a lot of ways, but the one surefire way to avoid discouragement, first of all, let's understand something. We're all participating in this thing called life. All of us. Life has ebb and flows. Mountaintops, it's got valleys. It's got thunderstorms in it, earthquakes. This life. Stop expecting it to go smooth, because it ain't finna go smooth. The road to success is always under construction. This life ain't set up to be smooth. You combat negativity and you combat discouragement with gratitude. It's the one way to combat discouragement is with gratitude. What messes you up is you focus on the thing that's not happening. And that causes you to get discouraged. So whenever you get discouraged, you have to change your focus from what's not happening to what has happened. And it straightens you out immediately. Because what causes the downslide is if you get wrapped up into what ain't happening, it get ugly, man. And it just snowballs. But you have to focus on gratitude. People understand how serious gratitude is. You know, it's a serious principle of success. It's hard to be miserable and grateful at the same time. Joy and depression cannot reside in the same space. So when you get down and you start thinking about how dark it is, I want you to remember everything your mother taught you that was good. And that replaced all the negative thoughts I was having. Because joy and depression cannot reside in the same space. Well, now, you got to take that concept and apply it to your life. If joy and depression cannot reside in the same place, when you get depressed and you get discouraged, you got to replace it with joy. And what more joyous than gratitude? What has God done for you? Didn't you wake up today? Ain't you still breathing? Don't you have some measure of health? Ain't you working? You may not have the car you want, but don't you have a car? Ain't you eating groceries today? You ain't homeless? Now, when you start tripping and you get depressed, you got to go into yourself and come up with some gratitude. Once you get grateful, you can't be discouraged and grateful at the same time. You cannot do it. That's how you combat every single time. It happened to me the other day. I woke up, I just wasn't on the right side of the bed. Went downstairs and started doing my meditation. I pull out a list of everything I'm grateful for. By the time I got to 13, I was fine. Because guess what? I'm alive, I'm breathing, I'm healthy. My grandkids is healthy, my children is healthy. That's how you do it. That's how you combat. I'm telling you, it works. It works. Just try it.
Reasons come first, answers come second. If you get a compelling vision and you got strong enough reasons that will push you through the tough times, you're going to do things other people don't do. Instead of collapsing, even if you get off target, you won't go, oh, I blew it. You'll get right back on target, make the change, make things happen. First step, vision that's compelling. Second step, make sure that there's strong enough reasons to follow through. Third step, you got to review it and feel it every day. I mean, anything. Have you ever had this happen in your life? Has there been anything in your life that you've ever wanted so badly? You were so desirous of it. You had such a hunger for it that you couldn't stop thinking about it. Could have been a career move, could have been when you were a kid, a car, it could have been a relationship, it could have been anything, but you were obsessed. You wanted to make this happen. You wanted to attract this to your life. You just wanted something. And you didn't even know how to get it. but it was so compelling to you. You kept thinking about it every day, envisioning it, imagining it, feeling it. And then stuff happened. And suddenly you started to attract people or situations to your life, and it just came together. Like, you didn't even have a total plan. It was just that it was so a part of your focus with so much intensity and emotion so often that it sensitized you to notice anything that could get you there. There's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. For short, we call it the RAS. That part of your brain determines what you notice in the world. And it's really important because when you set a goal, when you get really clear on a vision, and there's strong enough reasons, and you review it enough, and it becomes a part of you, that part of your brain says, anything that relates to this, I need to notice. It's like, did you ever buy a certain kind of car, or maybe a certain outfit, and suddenly you see that car everywhere, or those outfits everywhere? Well, you know the cars were always around, but why do you see it now? Because your RAS knows this is important, this is part of my world now. Similarly, when you really get clear and it's compelling, and you're reviewing it every day, got strong reasons, you're reviewing it every day and you're feeling it, the brain becomes incredibly acute at noticing anything to get you to move forward. And so that's the power of it.
Great, sit up in your chair with some energy then, put yourself in a peak state, and let's take a look at what 9 of these emotions, or 8 or 7, or whatever I put up here are. Number 1, fear. So if you're feeling fear, what does that mean usually? What's the message? The message always is that you need to change something. Is that true, yes or no? So every negative emotion means I've got to what? I've got to what? Change something. Either my perception or what I'm doing. Fear means that you got to prepare for something. You're afraid because your brain's saying message is prepare. Change what you're doing and get more prepared. Prepare for something that's going to happen so you're better prepared for it physically. Now, sometimes we just indulge in the emotion and we stay in the fear and we really are prepared. For example, let's say you're going to get to speak in front of a group and you're prepared, but you still have fear. It's because you got the message, you did the work, but you didn't shut the emotion off and say, you know, I am prepared. No reason to be afraid anymore. I'm ready. I'm ready. You never told your brain, it's okay. You don't have to give me the message anymore. I've done my work. Okay? So it's saying you need to prepare for something. Maybe it's a physical challenge. Maybe it's preparing for some loss that may be coming up. Something's about to come up, you need to be prepared for it. Okay, just get prepared. But once you get prepared, get off it. Let your brain know, okay, I am prepared. Move on. Focus on what you want now. What's hurt? Hurt usually is telling you an expectation you had has not been met. It's just telling you, hey, you have this expectation, it's not met. So what should you do when you have an expectation that's not met? You should focus on what you do want now. Write down your notes. Focus on what you do want now. Don't keep focusing on why you're disappointed, or how somebody disappointed you, or how you feel so hurt by them. An expectation wasn't met, and you need to change your approach. Focus on it. Or it means you need to change your communication. Hurt means you expected someone to treat you a certain way, and they didn't treat you that way. So you need to change your communication. You need to come to them and say, you know, I need your help. You know, when you communicate that way, in the past, I've interpreted that to mean you didn't care. I know you care because I know how much you love me and I love you. You know, could you help me out this way? What does it really mean to you when you do that? And then listen. Say, you know, in the future, I really appreciate it if you do it this way instead. Would that work for you? Would you be willing to do that? Okay, great. Fantastic. It's a message that says you got to communicate your needs better if you're feeling hurt. Hurt means I need to communicate my needs better. Or hurt also means I need to meet someone else's needs. So you feel hurt because you didn't meet their needs. That's why they didn't meet yours. Either you're not meeting their needs or you're not communicating how to have your needs be met. Or you have an expectation, you need to move on. This is not going to work out, so focus on what will. Third, anger. Anger is a message that says you have a major rule that's been violated. When you're angry, you have a rule that's been violated. We all have rules about how things must be and how they should be. And boy, some rules, if somebody violates some of our rules, man, we really get angry, don't we? By the way, you may also be angry because you violated your own rules. Is that true? Yeah, you're not doing what you believe you must do, and you get angry with yourself. Sometimes we get angry with ourselves, we spread that out towards somebody else, find somebody to lay blame on. 4, frustration. Frustration is a message that what you're doing isn't working, and that you need to what? Change. If you're frustrated, it means you still can succeed, but you got to change. You're frustrated, says, God, something's here and you know you could succeed and you're frustrated because what you're doing isn't working. Change and you can still get what you want. Flex. Disappointment. Disappointment's a message again. You expected something to happen, it's not going to. So immediately focus on what you want now. Focus on what you want now. It's a message that you have to get off it. You need to let go of something and move on and focus on what you want now. Guilt. Guilt is a powerful emotion if it's not abused and overused and indulged in. Any of these emotions are lousy if you indulge in them. Would you agree with me on that? Sit there and indulge in your fear and your hurt and your anger. Indulging means you keep focusing on the feeling instead of getting the message and moving on, learning. Guilt, though, can be valuable. It's telling you you have violated one of your own standards, and you need to do something immediately to be certain you won't do this again. You're having that pain of guilt because your brain is saying you just violated one of your most important standards of your life. You violated one of your own values. And you're going to keep getting this pain until you make yourself certain you're not going to do this again. You know what some people do? They just keep going back and feeling guilty about what they did in the past. The message is saying, get clear you broke your own rules and commit no matter what, you're not going to do it again. Make it clear, be certain you're not going to do it again, and your guilt will go away like that. Because that's the purpose of guilt. Make sure you don't violate your standards and make sure you do it well in the future.
Success, by the way, is not some overnight event. It's all these little things. Success is having a vision. Success is making it compelling. Success is really seeing it, feeling it every day with strong enough reasons. Success is feeling the sense that I'm here to grow and I'm here to give something to the world more than just myself. Success is caring about other people. Success is calling and saying, I love you in the middle of the day for no damn reason. Or sending a note. That'll change your relationship. Have a ritual of something funny, playful, or a surprise you do. How many relationships are dead today because they have no surprise rituals anymore? You need to have some rituals, some cool things you do that nobody else does that gives you a better life than anybody else has. All the little stuff. That's where success comes from. In business, it comes from delivering more than anybody could imagine. All those little things add up. People go, wow, that's who I want to do business with. It's true in any area of your life. So if you look at somebody who's really successful and you think, wow, I mean, they're so amazing, they're such a genius, you got to dig underneath and you got to remember something. People are rewarded in public for what they've practiced for years in private. Myself and my business people say, how do you get up and speak? And you have no notes and you go for 3 days and nights and the room is like, it's wired and it's incredible. It's like a rock concert. How do you do that? How do you have that confidence? Oh, and you know, it's not confidence, it's experience now. But I did so much behind the scenes and I still do to make things right. I mean, how many people would know that since the time I was 17 years old, before I walk on stage, still do to this day, wouldn't need to do it, but I still do it, I never walk out there without being in an absolute peak state of mind. You know, there are days my back is hurting, my throat is hurting, or I may have had a challenge, or my father passed away, and I've still got to deliver for these people because my standard is give my all every time. Every event has to be better. Talk to anybody who's been to our events for 5, 10 years, some of our trainers. I don't know how he does it. He always finds a way to make it better. That's not an ego thing. That's a standard in me. I have to find the way. And my ritual, though, is I prepare, I think, I gather new information, I figure out how to put something across better. What do people need? I spend time with our customers. I see what's going on. And before I get on stage each time, I have this little ritual.
You have to want to work. You never get better if you're not willing to put in the time.
Most people think, well, I'll be successful if something happens. I'll be successful if I win the lottery ticket. Look, you're not going to be successful if you don't demand it, if you literally don't stake a claim to it, say, this is mine, it's important, you're not going to have it.
People, why can't you be satisfied? Why do you always got to get things so perfect? Why do you spend so much time here? When you're obsessed, people think you're nuts. High performers are obsessed about the topic in which they're trying to learn, master, grow into. And if no one thinks you're crazy, you're not yet operating to the outer limits of your potential. You're not there yet. Because somebody in your life should say, you really care about this in a crazy way. And when you get there, you know you found your thing.
Most of y'all where y'all are because you never take ownership. It's always somebody else's problem. It's always somebody else's fault why you didn't do what you were supposed to do. It's not their fault. Take ownership. Take the parts that belong to you. Why? Because I'm the one that's messing up opportunities. I'm the one that keeps repeating my past. And you need to free yourself up and start doing something new. But you can't do new until you get rid of that old.
Now, we've got it down to 5 and 2. And maybe that's not too dangerous. I don't know. If God would have thought of 5 and 2, he might have made it 5 and 2. I don't know. You can't think of everything. But here's what it does mean. Enterprise is better than ease. If you rest too long, the jungle overtakes the village. Now here's the good news about the war between good and evil. Evil is no match for good, but good must be active. Weeds are no match for human activity, but if you stand still, how far in will they come? All the way. They'll grow right up around your shoes.
And for many of you, you have robbed yourself of a full life because you don't want to deal with crises, because they're uncomfortable, and because you're timid and passive, you run from them. There's going to be some scars. The scars going to come. You might as well get blessed by the scars. They're going to come.
But if you get busy, how far back can you take them? As far as you wish. They're no match, but you must be active. That's why the 6 of 1. Make sure you're not losing the war by taking off too much. Guess what the average years are after retirement? 6. 6. Which means don't retire. Your chances are too slim.